How do I sell my homemade food in Maine? And can you even sell food from your house in Maine? Well, in this video for Cottage Foods Laws, we're going to cover Maine's cottage food law information. Let you know exactly what you can do, how you can do it, how much you can make, and all of that great information. We're going to dive into that video right now. So welcome back to Cottage Foods Laws. We are YouTube's premier food entrepreneur channel for the homemade food entrepreneur. If you are looking to create a homemade food business, you're going to fall under the cottage food law most likely. And pretty much every state has guidelines and regulations that regulate these types of home-based food businesses. So if you're looking to create a home food business, definitely hit the subscribe button because this channel will be loaded with a ton of resources, making it easy for you to navigate and understand the laws and regulations for home food businesses. So does Maine have a cottage food law? They actually do, yes. Excuse me. They have a great law that actually allows you to create a numerous amounts of different types of products and a lot of different places to sell them, as a matter of fact. And you'd be shocked. Stay till the end of the video because I'll tell you how much money you're actually allowed to make in Maine, and it might surprise you. We also have 3 fantastic resources at the end of the video, so watching it from the beginning to end is going to be a huge help just for you. So let's dive right into it. So the first thing is selling. So number one, where can you actually sell cottage foods in the state of Maine? So you can actually sell them online. If you want to operate an online business, you can sell them online, but you have to deliver them by yourself within the state. So you can't actually sell them outside of the state lines. You can't ship them or anything of that sort. You do have to definitely bring them and deliver them to the customer. You can actually sell to restaurants even. You can sell your products and use them in dishes. They can use them as ingredients. Farmers markets throughout the state of Maine, you can sell them locally, directly to your customer, your consumer. Now you can sell them directly from home. If you are okay with customers coming to your home, if you've got a website set up, definitely check out the resources, by the way, in the description section to our website. We have even more additional resources for cottage food laws in Maine. Retail stores. So can I sell to retail stores? That's a unique question. And the thing with retail stores, grocery stores and other retail shops can sell your products. This, of course, does not include anything like food trucks or mobile food vendors. That's something that is traditionally not allowed. But yes, you can definitely do that through local restaurants and retail locations. And you can also do them on roadside stands or even local events like festivals or fairs. Now, if you do, keep this in mind though. In some cases at those events, you may have to have a separate permit or license based upon how the person running that event will let you know. Now, this has nothing to do with the state or local county or city laws of any sort, because every private, like festival, farmers market, they may require some additional licenses or permits or even insurance in some cases. So check with the event itself and find out for sure. Now, how can I actually sell the products as far as delivering them? What kind of services can I provide? So, as I mentioned before, home pickup, if you were okay with that, you can definitely let someone come to your house and pick up the products they ordered from you. Like we mentioned before, online, like mail order is fine, but it has to be within the state of Maine. You can also do a delivery service if you were okay with that. I would highly recommend, in order to make that profitable, if you're going to deliver your Maine cottage foods from your home, make sure it's about $50 to $100, or it's got a minimum. You know, you don't want to be driving around and delivering something, especially with gas prices today. If you sell a $5 or $6 item, you're not going to make any money delivering that, okay? Now let's figure out what kind of foods can you actually make. Okay, so there's a pretty decent amount of foods, and keep in mind, the list I'm about to go through is not an all-inclusive thing. It changes from time to time, and in some cases, you have multiple variations of different items. So if you're able to make like brittles, there's multitudes of different brittle flavors. If you make chocolates, you can make a variation of chocolates and such. Fudge, there's so many varieties of fudge flavors. So don't be limited by one flavor or one type based upon the list I'm about to tell you. All right, so let's go over number 1, candies. So cotton candies you can do. Candies like hard candies, chocolates, fudge, brittles. Items like sweetbreads, cakes, muffins, scones and biscuits, cookies, breads, brownies. Donuts and bagels and rolls. These are types of almost like bread items, if you want to call them that. You can do as well. You can also do olive oils. These are fantastic. Now, there's some that are not allowed based upon certain ingredients, so double check that list on our website for that. Mustards and pickles and vinegars, ketchups, nut butters, salsas and sauces. That's kind of interesting. A lot of states actually don't allow people to make cottage foods of those types because of the acidity of the food. And normally you'd have to have it tested. Dry goods. So let's see what you can do for that. Spices and seasonings are allowed. That's a huge opportunity. Mixes, dried fruits, tea leaves. You can also do noodles, coffee beans, even dried vegetables. In some cases, you can do as well. You can do empanadas as long as they're not meat or cheese filled. Pastries, cones. Now you can also do fruit butters, jellies and jams, and marmalades. Also for snacks. Now this is something that's really interesting because you can do a variety of snacks from popcorn, granola, caramel corns, marshmallows, nuts and seeds. There is a huge market for those items, especially popcorn is very inexpensive to produce, kettle corn, crackers, and pretzels. But the popcorn aspect of it is a very low investment business with a huge margin. Some of the margins when it comes to popcorn are actually between 80 and 90% profit, which is insanely good. Now, keep in mind perishable foods, things that are time or temperature sensitive are traditionally not allowed. Those are potentially hazardous food products, as they're called. So only non-potentially hazardous foods are traditionally allowed through cottage food laws. So keep that in mind. In the state of Maine, they're really restrictive on that. You don't want to make something that is time or temperature sensitive. That would be something like you would find in, let's say, a food truck. So if it would be tacos or hot dogs or anything of that sort, those are items that have to be eaten within a very short time frame. So you normally aren't allowed to produce those through cottage food. That's a different type of license. Now, there are some restrictions and limitations. Now, when you're producing the food product in your own home under the cottage food law in Maine, they do require that you cannot have pets in the area. So if you do have pets, you have to, at least during the processing of making the product, don't allow them in the area. And that's kind of common sense because you don't want like pet dander or pet hair, pet fur, that type of stuff in the air or around the product that you're making. Also, something that's really unique that not every state requires or limits you to, but smoking. So if you do smoke, you not necessarily recommended to do that while you're producing and processing your food products. You want to keep it as sterile and as clean as possible. That's actually really beneficial for you and your business, to be honest with you. So you can't do any type of smoking of any type during the process of making. Now, you do have what's known as a home food processor license. So Maine's cottage food laws require that you have a home food processor license. So you have to basically contact what's known as the Division of Quality Assurance and Regulations. And you have to kind of fill out, I think it's an application. I don't think there is a fee for that. If there is, correct me if I'm wrong. An application for that home processor license. Now you do have to have an inspection. So basically before you actually get that license, you will have, and you'll definitely need to get a home kitchen inspection by the Division of Quality Assurance and Regulations, which is Maine's regulatory body that regulates that. Now, most types of non-potentially hazardous food products actually don't require any type of any test of any kind, but in some cases, if they do, if it's things such as some pickles and certain types of dressings, if you get into that, or even sauces, each of the product testing usually runs about $30 to $45 per product, depending on the type of product that it is. Now, the other thing to keep in mind, water testing. Now, this is pretty normal across the board in every cottage food state as well. But if you've got any type of well water, or if you're not on a natural local source water, but you are using a private well, you're going to have that tested just to ensure that there's no bacteria or anything, because that is the water you're going to be cleaning your utensils and cookware that you're going to be using for the food, and they want to make sure that it's tested, okay? So next up, let's see the labeling. So if you're going to label your cottage food laws product, you need to make sure that you follow these processes. This is actually also very similar in most states. The first thing you need to know, of course, is allergens. So you want to make sure you have an allergen warning on that. And that means anything that's got anything processed where you've got wheat or soy, dairy, egg, or nuts, tree nuts or peanuts. If you've got that in your home or if you've got that in some of the equipment that you're using, make sure that you let people know that that the item is actually produced on equipment which shares with tree nuts, shares with soy nuts, because anybody who has any allergens to those can have an allergic reaction, and you definitely don't want that because you will be liable for that. Next up is your business address. So this technically would be the home address where the product is being made. You can't use a P.O. box, you can't use a neighbor's, you can't use a commercial kitchen. The home in which the product is made, because what happens is they want to know where it's made from. If somebody happens to get sick, they have a traceability, they know exactly where and what house it came from. Next up is your business name. So as a cottage food operator, as a business, you are going to need to create a business name. So definitely something that you need to come up with. That needs to be on the label as well. The ingredients for the product from most to least used is going to need to be also appear on the label. So make sure that you've got all of the ingredients, because again, that's something that a lot of people might be allergic to, or they may want to stay away from a certain ingredient. Next up is the net amount. So let's say you're making a trail mix, and the trail mix weighs 16 ounces, weighs 1 pound. You want to make sure that you put that on the label as well. That is the net weight. The net weight is the amount of the product minus any packaging, bags, anything that you've got on there, even the bag label. All that does not include it. So don't weigh the product before you check out the net weight and then add the bag to it. It has to be separate. Lastly, you need to make sure that the product name is on it. So the name of the product, if let's hypothetically say you're making sugar cookies, make sure that it says sugar cookies on the product label, because that way the customer knows actually what the item's name is, not your business name, but the actual name of the product. Now, outside of that, check down below and check out the new additional resources. We're going to have a whole bunch of stuff from specifically the state of Maine. And lastly, you're going to wonder, how much money can you actually make? Well, guess what? Maine's cottage food law has no sales limit. That's right. You could sell $150,000 of product out of your home. You could sell $1 million. If you're able to build the business up and do $1 million from your home, that is pretty impressive. But Maine has no sales limit. That is something you definitely are super excited about. You can produce as much as you want. Lastly, you want to make sure that you create an LLC. Now, most of the Maine's cottage food laws don't necessarily require you to create an LLC, but to be honest with you, you need to definitely do that for reasons of running a business, keeping it separate from your own personal items. You don't want to do it as a sole proprietorship, because any legal ramifications, if someone gets sick, they could sue you personally. If you create an LLC, which is a limited liability company for your cottage food business out of your home, you can allow the company to absorb any issues, and you personally won't lose your house, you won't lose a car, any of the stuff that is personally owned. They cannot pursue that because the LLC is legally the entity that you are. And of course, get yourself food business insurance. Your homeowner's insurance policy, a lot of people are misled by this, but it does not cover businesses. It only covers your home. So if you're operating a home food business, even though the states don't necessarily require this as well, but you need to get a home business insurance. Now, if you don't know how to do all this, again, there's links down below in the description that'll help you walk you through that, and you can definitely get that up and running. So if you're wanting to create a cottage food business in Maine, these are some steps in understanding how to get started. If you have any questions about it, let us know down below in the comments, and we will get to it as soon as possible.